Hello, everybody. What's up? Welcome to another episode of Rocket Live. Thank you guys. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today on this excellent day. Excellent. And I'm in New Jersey. Chris is on the West Coast. So today we're blessed with another awesome fall day, which was really great. So definitely been enjoying the weather over the last few days. I want to really welcome my guest. I feel like we've been talking about getting together for like months. I think it's been months. But my guest today is the No Excuses coach himself, the one and only Mr. Christopher Rausch. Thank you, sir. Thanks for coming on the show today.
What's up, Chris, man? It's good to see you, brother. It's good to see you. Happy to be here and ready to rock it. Literally.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. I mean, so Chris and I met. So here's one of the cool things that have come out of the pandemic. And believe me, it's not that I would have wished that the pandemic happened for this to happen, but one of the silver linings, I should say, that have come out of this is the fact that it's definitely forced me to network more virtually, which, before this, I networking virtually was a very small percentage of my networking. And then when this happened, just, like all of us, we were all forced to start doing things that we weren't normally used to doing. And lo and behold, through the grapevine and trickle down of virtual networking, I get invited to this WhatsApp group, which Chris and I are both a part of. And boom, I start meeting people, and almost like right away, like it was like, oh, Chris and Chris, you guys both need to meet each other. And then there it is. And it's like, I feel like we're brothers from another mother here with the you and I are like, we connected instantly, and we were just talking, and it's like, wait, you're into this? Wait, you're into this? Wait, you feel the same way I do. So this has been great to finally get you on the show and talk about it and talk about everything that you've been up to, because man, you got a great story. And one of the big things that we always, my overarching theme on everything I do is that rock star. And it's not just about like being in, on stage and being in the lights and that definition of rock star. It's definitely has a lot to do with attitude, mindset, and the fact that anybody can be a rock star if they really want to. And so that's how I love to come at it. And I love to talk to people and feature people on the show who not only are rock stars in their own right, but help people to attain their rock star status and get there. And you, my friend, are definitely one of those people that I know. You live it, man. You live it. You walk it, you talk it, and you live it. So
thank you,
I'm excited to talk about it.
And you the same, man. That's why I respect you and really wanted to be on your show. I'm asked to be on shows a lot, and sometimes I don't accept. But as soon as we were talking, we're like, I gotta have you on my show. My shows were on unscripted, so we're just gonna have a blast. So I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to help out the viewers and just have a good time jamming, man. So thank you.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, me too, man. It's going to be great. So real quick before we get started, if anybody has comments or anything they want to throw along the way, throw them in the comments, ask us questions, shoot away. We're here to jam. We're here to talk and hang out. And so, yeah, if you guys have any questions along the way, please feel free to send them, put them in the chat, and we'll respond to them live here on the show. So diving right into it, I feel like we could probably talk for hours on the show.
Did you say diver down into it? Okay.
Yeah, diver down into it. We're going to dive down into this.
Love it.
So diving into this, so why don't we give everybody a little bit of taste of who you are and sort of your backstory a bit, because before we jump into a lot of the meat that I want to talk to about in this interview, I think it's going to help to really frame up a bit of your story. I know it, but nobody else. Well, the people watching, I'm not sure if they know, but I want you to share that.
Exactly, man. Thank you. No, it's interesting. I'll give you the very short version, then I'll expand upon it about how you wish to go about it. But really, literally, I was a homeless 7th grade dropout living in the backseat of a station wagon with 18 cats and 4 dogs when I was 13 years old. And that all changed on May 10th, 1982, when I went from being a middle-class kid, normal neighborhood, trying to find my way in life at 6 years old. And upon 13, just wound up having a huge trajectory change. And for the next 4 years, there's just a whole host of stories in there. It was attempted suicides twice. Fortunately, I sucked at it. I got carjacked once. I almost got shot in the head by a guy for didn't want to buy his cigarettes because he thought I was racist. And the list goes on and on and on and on, stealing, gangs, fighting, drugs, alcohol, all sorts of stuff in between there. And I'm grateful it all happened. And I'm glad to talk about any part of it.
Yeah, man. I mean, and it is a story where, and by the way, thank God you sucked at suicide. So I'm glad that's something you failed at. So thank you for that. But yeah, I mean, I think it's just worth talking about a lot, because it's amazing how the things in our life that that shape our trajectories, and how one thing can happen and then set you off another path, and these things happen, man. I mean, this is life. I mean, just look at this year as just a snapshot of things that have happened to, I mean, even myself personally, and I know yourself, and I mean for basically millions of other people in the world. This year alone has changed the course of a lot of people's lives. And I think that what makes you unique, though, and I think what a lot of people can learn is how you got through it, and I think it's important to talk about that, because people go through a lot of things, and I think a lot of times is people don't know how to get out of situations. They don't know how to change the mindset of things, and it's very easy. And I love that you have the no excuses coaching and that tagline, but it's a serious type, because to me that's your real mission in life. And it's so easy to make excuses for why listen, bad things happen, and extraordinary things happen to people, but there is, at some point there is a way out. And I think that, and it's a lot of what I know you talk about too, because I watch your Facebook videos a lot, and your walk and talking videos, and they're great. But I know that's a big theme of yours, is the excuses and the mindset, and how that can be basically the thing that begins to get you out and change your life. So please talk about that.
Great setup, Chris. I mean, mindset is everything, obviously. And I think really what it comes down to, when people ask me, like, what was one of the biggest determinants of you getting out of that situation and becoming where you're at now today? And we could talk about that as well.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? One of the biggest determinants is kind of twofold. I literally got to a spot after I had the guy put the gun to my forehead, threatening to kill me because I went and buy Marlboro Red cigarettes from him. I was 15 or 16 years old. I smoked Cools. I smoked menthols because all my friends smoked Marlboros and they would bum them off me. So then I didn't have any. So I started smoking menthols. So long story short, this guy says, "Hey, you want to buy these cigarettes?" And I'm like, "No, I don't smoke those." And he's like, "What? Because I'm black?" And I'm like, "No, dude, I grew up in Inglewood. It doesn't matter. I love everybody. I just don't like those cigarettes here." And I went to go reach in my back pocket to show him my cigarettes out in my back pocket. And what the? And he thought I was going to pull it out. I'm like, and I literally got to the point, honest, Chris, I got to the point where I was trying to explain to the guy, I'm like, "Dude, I don't care." I said, "If those are Cools or Newports or whatever else, oh, now you're making fun of me." And I'm like, "Dude, I'm not making fun of you." I said, "Half of my friends are black. It doesn't matter. Come on, dude. Seriously." And then I snapped and I was like, "If you're going to pull the effing trigger, then pull the effing trigger right now." Because at that point, I'd already tried to kill myself twice. And like, thank God I sucked at it. And I really didn't. I mean, I was just looking for attention in some respects. But I literally got to that snapping point. I'm like, I just told a big black guy with a gun to shoot me. I'm starting not to be all right. And I sat at the top of the stairs at night. It was a sleazy motel that we were staying in. And I looked at the drug trafficking. I looked at the cops. I looked at all these people that had lived there for a while, lived in this motel. And I was like, I'm either going to die getting out of here, I'm going to go to jail getting out of here, or I'm going to get out of here because I choose to. And it was just me and my mom. My mom lost everybody in her entire life. So I stayed back to try to help her. I could have gone on to go to school and everything. And the thing is that I had to decide that I was going to be first, because I put my mom first my entire life. And here I was 17 years old, 18 years old at this point, when I finally make this determination. I'm like, if I don't make a decision now, I'm going to wind up in these other places. And my mom already had an opportunity for her. So I made the determination to put myself first. And it was one of the most excruciating, painful decisions that I ever made in my life. But if I had not made that decision, I probably wouldn't be sitting here in front of you today.
Right. And it's amazing. Like, once again, just going back to what we were talking about, like those things in your life that, you make these decisions and it just changes your trajectory, your perspective on everything. And I love to, so, I spent a lot of time reading a lot of the content on your site. And like I said, I watch the videos you do, and you interview, you do a live streaming show too on Friday nights, which is, my time here. I think it usually is around like 7, 8 something, or maybe later. But I when you just did this weekend, was this last week was really good. So you do that. I see your walking and talking videos, and a lot of this is a reoccurring theme, and the stuff on your website too, the content you put up on your website is a lot built around that. And I love that, because it is, bringing it back to the mindset part of it. Like nothing, you can't accomplish anything unless you have that mindset. And the Napoleon Hill quote, it's escaping, but it talks about PMA, that positive mental mindset. Like you can't accomplish anything unless you have that. And I tell people that a lot of times, and I'm sure that's something, in your coaching, like you have to do, because you have to frame that up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, people just need to get out of their own way. People come to me for
Yeah.
coaching. I'm like, life is really simple. If you're doing something you don't like, stop doing it and start doing something you like. And so for me, usually what I would say that to people, and they're like, like, how did you do it, Chris? I just chose to, and then I just got to work and I never stopped until I got it. And that's when I first started out being a coach or a speaker. And I'm like,
Right.
It's really simple. I just decided I didn't want to do this anymore. I made a hard choice. I went through a lot of heck after that, making that choice to leave my mom in that motel. I left her in the motel, but I didn't leave her. I wound up going back there and helping her. But when you think about it's just, then I was like, oh, excuses. Everybody's got an excuse. Oh, I don't have time. I don't have this. I don't have that. I don't have a leg. I don't have an arm. I don't have eyesight. I'm like, really? Is that? And I just became just massively intrigued by the fact of what holds people back. And it's their excuses. It's the fact that they don't love themselves enough to be able to get out of their own way and say, hey, you know what? This is really something that I've been tolerating for a long time, and I'm not going to tolerate it anymore. I'm going to stand up and do these things. And even through that, Chris, one of the most interesting aspects of what I do and what I coach and how I've learned, because I'm constantly coaching myself. Constantly. I'm like, okay, Chris, you're going through this thing. How would you coach somebody else if you were doing this? And I think about that, and I just go back to the fact that you have to get rid of your excuses. You have to have that belief and that faith that, everything's going to be okay. You're going to survive, and that things aren't happening to you. They're happening for you. And when you shift that perspective and you consider everything that happens in our life from 0 to 5, right? I think you have kids, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 2 daughters. Yep.
So 0 to 5, I mean, that's when a lot of the imprinting goes on. So for me as a coach and thinking about how to get people unstuck and make them unstoppable, it's usually going back to their childhood, because that's where we kind of get really juiced up in the fact of how we're raised and the belief systems that we're given. So yeah, it's just a combination of things. But again, to answer the question, it's like, just get out of your own way and keep going and don't stop.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a great point. And and I mean, everybody deals with this in life too. I mean, it's I've dealt with it. I mean, and you still deal with it. I mean, it's hard. You go through life, you do things, and you have the right mindset, but then something happens, it knocks you off course a little bit. But it's about the real trick is getting through the excuse and fighting through the head trash and getting back on course and getting back on that path again. Because I mean, that is what life is, man. It's just going to constantly throw things at you. Like life is not going to stop, it's never going to stop. And you just have to learn how to navigate through that. And, and the great thing about it is like, you have choice. Like, we have choice. We can go down any path that you want to choose. You have a choice. And because the brain, I mean, and once again, Napoleon Hill talks about this, the brain doesn't know the difference really between right or wrong. It's about what's instilled in you, and the brain processes whatever you feed it. So if you constantly feed it negative thoughts, well, the negative thoughts is what's going to manifest. If you constantly feed it positive thoughts, well, then there you go. And that's why it's so important to do things like write things down, stare at it every day, because by doing that, you're really imprinting this on your brain. And before you know it, your subconscious is taking over, and it's just getting you closer and closer to that goal every single day, and that's, and I know that that's a lot of what you talk about too in your coaching and training when you work with people. So now let's talk a little bit about that too, because I want to dig in a little bit more about your coaching and training and the types of people you're working with, because I know that it's not just exclusive to like high-powered CEOs, because I think a lot of people think that like, oh, you're a business coach, so you must just be working with like, the upper echelon of like coaches of executives, but that's not the case.
No, well, for me, no.
Yeah.
I work with a range of people. I've worked with vice presidents of companies, on down to people who are unemployed. I mean, literally, I look for people in my coaching who are literally at that point where they've realized that they're comfortably miserable. That's been usually what I've been helping so many people with lately, is the fact of transitioning out of a job that they're comfortably miserable in. Like, we go to work. That's what I was for 26 years in one job. That ended last November. And I was doing the whole thing. Like, I got the job. It's comfortable. I make a lot of money. I have 5 weeks of vacation, but was I happy? No, I was okay. And I said comfortably miserable. And ever since I've said comfortably miserable, people come to me and they hear that like, dude, that's me. That's me. I don't want to be comfortably miserable. I'm like, why? Like, because, there's all these other things I want to do. And I'm like, yeah. I said, well, we have to tie some regrets to that. We have to tie some pain to that in order to get you to change what it is that you're doing today to have a different outcome tomorrow. So people like that have been attracted to me lately. And also interesting, enough, Chris, and I'm sure you get this too, is I've had people more attracted to me lately just for the fact that I'm just being me. And I've always been me to a certain extent, but really when I decided I wasn't going to go back to corporate, when I really decided that I wanted just to do what made me happy, take my own advice, like really full in jump, as Steve Harvey says in a 2-minute video. If you guys never seen it, go see it. Steve Harvey Jump. It's 2 minutes, changed my life. It's probably one of the best motivational videos I've ever seen. And people are just like, you seem so happy. And I'm like, because I don't have to pretend to be anything I'm not. I swear, I have shows, I coach, I speak, I mentor at-risk kids. I'm a great dad. I have a great life. I love my life. So that's what it is. People are seeing that inner glow of what we're going after. You're doing your thing and you're rocking it. You're an entrepreneur. So that's the excitement. People gravitate towards that excitement. And I just love helping everybody. So it's been fun, really focusing on that demographic of people who are comfortably miserable, whether it's a personal situation or a professional situation, and watching in 6 months the transition of them going like, I don't know if I can do it, to being, I'm confident enough that whatever comes my way won't stop me. And I share this with people because I literally had to put this on my arm. What doesn't kill me only makes me stronger. So literally for me, like you said, Chris, we have down days. People often comment like, Chris, you're always so happy and so charged and so positive, and your belief is so great. And I'm like, no, you should be inside my head. You get to see me when I'm charged up and I'm ready to go. You should see me when I'm by myself for 4 hours and I'm like thinking about life. And I'm like, but I know the tools to get me out of that. And I put that on my arm because one day I was like, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. And I'm like, I could hear all the people that would be like, Chris, you told me to keep going. And I was like, all right. So I put that on there and I've never looked back, and it's been amazing.
That's awesome. Oh, we got a comment here. Hey, Mike. So, wow, insightful. Like the line in Free Will by Rush. If you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice. Yes.
Excellent song reference. Good job, Mike.
Absolutely. Yeah. Great song reference. But yeah, it's actually really true, because even by not making a choice, you've made a choice.
People argue with that all day long.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? You actually bring up a really good point, man. And I like what you said there, like that. And I do get that a lot. Like people are like, how do you do it? How do you have so much energy? And every time I see you, you're this and that and positive. And it's like, that is, once again, that's a conscious choice to be like that. But yes, there are times when when I'm alone by myself and I'm thinking and I'm working and I'm trying to figure things out in those 3 or 4 hours. And but there are the tools that I use internally, and everybody can come up with their own tools to do this. It's like, this is why it's very personalized, but there are things you can do to lift yourself up out of that and not stray too far, because that's what happens is, you start going down that black hole, the black pit of despair a little bit. And it's hard. And you need that hand. You need a hand to reach you out, to grab and pick you up again. And, a lot of that can start with yourself, and asking for help, realizing that this is a spot you don't want to be in. I think times too, I think I saw something on LinkedIn recently where somebody had posted something about asking for help. When was the last time you asked for help? Is asking for help hard? And, it's amazing how some people really do struggle with that. They'll wait to the absolute, things could be as dark as they possibly can before they'll actually reach out and ask for help, from somebody. Oh yeah. And I'm sure that's something you experience that a lot with a lot of the people you work with, really taking them from, that low spot and bringing them back up again.
Yeah, no, it's a great point, Chris. It's just all about, it's all about realizing that vulnerability is a strength. Like if people haven't seen it, I'm sure you have. Brene Brown, go watch her TED Talk on vulnerability. Go consume some of her content. That's one of the things that took me out of ego. I was in ego for so many years. I was in survivor mode for so many years. I was in, okay, I've got this persona to protect. And I listened to that TED Talk and I was like, wow, she's telling me it's okay to be me. I haven't had anybody tell me that. Let me listen to more of this. It's okay to be me. I don't have to be what I have to be for everybody else so that they're happy. I mean, think about when we're little kids, Chris. We want to make them all happy. And nobody says, hey, you should make yourself happy first, because that's selfish, and don't be selfish. Oh, I could talk for days on that, but no,
me too.
I asked for help yesterday. I honestly did, dude. I think I told you I was about to put a post out there and I was just like, and I thought, you know what? something in my brain told me, because I'm always asking spirit guides, I'm always asking for help. And something told me, like, don't send this right now, send it to your coach and have her tell you if it's okay. Cause it was eloquently worded. It was just
Right.
me thinking and kind of just drawing the line in the sand of what I'm willing to accept and tolerate from society, which you and I talked about before. And I somewhat did think my coach might tell me, because sometimes she tells me to be edgier. And she came back, she goes, oh my God, don't send that. Don't send that. And she reminded me all the things that I worked through and the different mindsets. And I was like, I'm so glad I asked for help, because if I had posted that, it would have probably given me a different light with people and everything else. And I want to be the light. I don't want to be the divisive part like I'm seeing now. So yeah, you got to ask for help. It's not a sign of weakness. That's how you get stronger. And that's how you go help other people. I keep telling people that you get help, you get stronger, you go on to help other people. That's my story in a nutshell.
Yeah, and it's a very powerful story. And and I always like to talk, so like, I know for me, and I think I've shared this out a lot, and I'm always happy to talk about it, but I mean, from from the point that you had your trajectory and from where you are now, like becoming a coach, when was that point where you felt like, wow, now I want to go, this is what I want to do. I want to be a coach. I want to help other people in this way that you've been doing, the No Excuses coach, all that. Like, when did that really like hit you as like, this is the path I'm going to go down now? When did that come about for you?
Wow. Great question, Chris. Great question. It was really, honestly, back when I think back to when I was homeless and I was in the backseat of that station wagon. I do remember this part, and it's creepy because I don't remember a lot. I remember we were going to sleep. It was nighttime. We had the cats in the car and everything. And I remember putting my head down, and my head kind of was leaning on the armrest. We lived in a 69 Country Squire station wagon. And I thought, the only thing I want to do is just have a house that nobody can take away from me, because I'd already been evicted out of Anaheim and I was just a little kid. And now we're getting evicted out of here. And I'm like, I just want a place where I can just be safe. I think that's what I was looking for. And throughout my process of finding that and growing and learning and going to school, I realized that as I was getting stronger, all I wanted to do was help other people. And I thought, okay, one day I'm going to take all of this and I'm going to go back to the school that I dropped out of. And I'm going to go tell those kids that, hey, yes, you can do it. Yes, you can go through all these different things. You can go through all these different experiences. And as long as you choose the right path and you choose to make those tough decisions, you will get there. And so I've been talking to people, and I've been coaching and speaking, but it wasn't coaching then. I didn't call it life coach. I just helped people. So there was no name for it. I thought about getting into psychology. And then a buddy of mine and I were talking, and I told him my dream. I said, I want to go back to the school I dropped out of and talk there. And he's like, well, what school was it? Just nobody ever asked me that. And I'm like, oh, it was Brookhurst Junior High in Anaheim. He goes, say what? And I go, Brookhurst Junior High in Anaheim. What? And he goes, my wife's a PE coach there. I'm like, no way. On Brookhurst Street? He goes, yeah. He goes, no way. He goes, let me talk to her tonight and see if she can go talk to the principal. And it literally was that easy. It was like,
right.
And then we went back to talking about something else. And I was sitting there thinking in the back of my mind, I'm like, wow, that would be amazing. And so a couple of days later, he hits me up. He goes, hey, she talked to the principal. It's all set up. You're going to go speak to the 7th and 8th grade class. Here's the phone number to schedule it and get it going. I was like, oh my God, scheduled it, got a videographer, went out there. And it was the first time I set foot back on the school campus since I had left. And it was, I still get chills. I took a bunch of pictures. And so when they put me in front of those kids and I looked up there, I was shocked, dude, at how little they were. I was like, I was that age when I became homeless. I looked, because I think of myself as an adult, even at that point.
Right.
As an adult. And I looked at these little kids and I was like, all right, I got to send them a message. And it's actually a video on my YouTube page where I went back and I spoke to the kids at Brookhurst Junior High. And from that point forward, those kids came up to me like, thank you. I'm at Olive Crest Children's Foundation, or thank you, I live in a motel now, or thank you, I'm living in a car. And I was just like, oh my God, this feels so amazing to take all of that crap, all of that stuff, all of that pain and that crying and suffering and bullying and everything that happened in my life, to have these little kids walking up to me and saying, you might be the reason that I don't do something bad to myself. And I was like, boom. And then the topper on that came in 2008 when I was sitting there at a church, and I was sitting in the back of the church, and I was watching my friends eulogize my coworker, and my buddy Dave got up there and started blubbering. And I'm like, this is interesting. I didn't know how she had this impact on people. And I went, what if I died tomorrow? Who would show up and what would they say? And this is one of the biggest moments in my life. I'm like, if I died tomorrow, who would show up and what would they say? And I thought about it. I'm like, 10 to 15 people would show up with probably cases of beer and a bottle of Jack Daniels and a bunch of heavy metal and poison and whatever, and be like, oh man, remember that time Chris did that? Or remember that time Chris said this? Or yeah, he was a good guy and he fought for people. But I was like, okay, I don't want to be known as a party animal or the guy that would do the stupid stuff. And I drove home from the funeral And I said, you know what? I'm going to write my eulogy. And I sat down, God is my witness, took my yellow pad. It was bigger than this. It was a bigger yellow pad. I took it out, I took a pen, and I just started writing. And I just said, I'm not going to even judge. I'm just going to write. And then I got down to the bottom of the page, and I was like, all right. And I went back and I started reading it out loud, because when I write, I read out loud to make sure I catch it, because I'm ADD on crack. And by the time I got to the bottom of the page, I had tears running down my face. And I was like, wow, that's really powerful. And the end part of that, Chris, was that Christopher Rausch will have fought for what was right and what was fair, that he will have risked for which that mattered, and he will left the earth a better place for who he was and what he did. And that time, that's when I started my company, Master Motivators. That's when I put the intention and put the work out to become a coach and to become a speaker, and started doing podcasts and doing everything else. And I did that as a suit and tie speaker for a long time. I had the suit and tie and looked like everybody else, didn't swear.
Yes, I was going to ask you about this, because I mean, I know the story because you told me, but I love hearing it, because I love how, the embracing of your authentic self. But keep going. I want you to keep going.
Yeah, no, thanks, man. I did the whole suit and tie thing. There's videos on my YouTube page. People crack up. I'm standing up and wearing a suit, and I've got my hands all like this, and I'm making people laugh. And it was just like, and when I did that, I was like, okay, I really don't feel like me. I went to this big speaker event, and literally it was just speaker after speaker selling and hawking their stuff. And that wasn't what it was for me. That was never about like selling stuff. It was always about helping people. And I looked backstage and I was like, hey, we're all saying the same thing. We're all look the same. I'm not that guy. I'm a biker. I'm a rocker. I swear. I party. I like drink Jack Daniels. I like to talk to. I just like to have a good time, but I like to help people. And I don't want to do this. I don't want to do it under these circumstances. So I joined a mastermind. I didn't have the money, and I just took a chance. I'm like, if I can't take this money and make $1 more out of this, doing what I love to do, what I'm passionate about, what I've been doing half of my life, not getting paid for, then I have no business doing it. And I wrote the check, and I was like, all right, let's do this. And I got around a bunch of cool people, and they're like, no, dude, you're not a suit and tie dude at all. You need to be who you are. And this is before Gary Vaynerchuk came out. And I'm like, I started researching, like, do speakers swear and I don't want to offend people. And I never owned it. And then finally, just through the progression of being who I am and realizing it's stupid not to be who you are. And if people don't like you, it's okay. You don't have to make everybody happy. And then I just fell into it, and it's just been amazing ever since. But yeah, the suit and tie stuff was interesting, because when I said, I don't want to do that anymore, like, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to wear a bandana, because people ask me where the bandana thing came from. All my life, when I was a little kid, I could show you pictures from a little kid on. I always had a hat on backwards, even when I had long ass hair, full hair everything. And then as I started getting older, when I was working out, I just hated sweat in my face. So I'd always wear a bandana. Then I started riding Harleys, and you wore bandanas. It was like, that became my thing. People knew me from the bandana or the hat on backwards. And I was talking to the guys in the mastermind, and I said, you know what, if I go on stage, I want to go on stage with a bandana, because I'm sick of standing up there for an hour, sweat and going and trying to be all cool and everything. Just because I sweat, I just sweat. And that's
me too. I instantly sweat.
So I'm like, and my friends go, well, just wear the bandana. I'm like, I don't want to be Rhett Michaels. I'm like, I don't want to do that. Like, well, you're not covering anything up. You're not trying to keep your hair on. You're just, and actually at that time I had hair, and I was just like, okay. And I just started owning it, and people were like, all right, what's this? And some people were like, what are you doing? And even up until a point, Chris, I'll show this final part of the story. I was so worried about swearing and being authentically who I was that on my Facebook profile, I had a good Chris and I had a bad Chris. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to start another Facebook profile. I'm going to tell my friends that like me for the way I am to go over here. And I wanted to see, after a year, how many people see which Chris was more popular. And they both grew at the same time. And then finally, my friends in the mastermind group, like, you have to cut one. I'm like, I don't want to hurt these people's feelings. Like, you have to cut one. And when I cut it and I just owned who I was, best decision, one of the best decisions in my life.
Yeah, man, that's a great story. And that goes a lot to, I know that the things that you and I talk about a lot when it comes to, being authentic and being yourself and totally embracing, a mindset of things. We got a comment here from Mary Jo. Wow, so powerful to have made an impact on those kids in junior high school. Way to give back.
Thank you, awesome. Mary Jo. Yes, it was a truly tremendous experience. I've coached so many people, dude. And people have had horrible experiences that make my experience look like I was like, okay, you didn't get to go to Disneyland, horrible experiences. And I said, how can we turn this experience? How can we turn all of this into something that means something? How can you take your trash, turn it into your treasure, and go back and help people with this, whether it's abused mothers, abused wives, fathers have been abused. I mean, kids, everything. And when they sit there and realize that they can do that, and turn that around to go help other people, that takes all of that stuff and makes it mean something. And it kind of just, it's almost like a ceremony. Like, okay, now I don't need to hang on to that baggage anymore as a victim. Now I'm using that for good. What
I love that.
With that? What experiences you had of that with being able to take a sour experience and make it positive in your life?
That is a great question. One more comment and I will answer that. So John Harms, love it. Authenticity, be yourself, makes life a lot easier. Yes, John.
Thank you, John.
Absolutely.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
I mean, for me, there's definitely been times in my life where I've definitely felt like, just to a point where, I like the pit of despair. I mean, there's definitely some low points in life, and this is it. Like everybody sees not that there's two versions of me, but I think everybody's used to seeing the version of me that's very like, positive, full of energy all the time, which I definitely bring that. But believe me, I've definitely had some low points in my life where I've definitely dealt with some major depression issues, and I did a really good job, I think, of hiding it to a point. I mean, people who really know me can see through that, and there's definitely I can relate a lot to that. I can relate a lot to like that feeling of you're never going to come out of this. Like you're just going deeper and deeper and sinking deeper into this hole, and until you can snap out of it or someone can extend that hand and you ask for the help to pull you out, it seems daunting and it seems like you're never going to get out of it. And I've definitely felt like that many times in my life, and not, I was raised well, always had a roof on my head. My parents raised me, my brother, my sister, awesome. And, and I've never had an experience like from your life, but it's just that inexplicable, like why, and then you walk around feeling like, well, why do I feel like this? Like I shouldn't be depressed. Like I shouldn't be feeling this. Like that doesn't make sense. Like, and then you start getting, you get deeper into it. And like now, not only do I feel like this, but now I'm making myself feel even worse because now I feel guilty and I'm beating myself up for even feeling like this. Yeah. And it's hard to break out of that. And there's definitely been many times in my life where I have had a very difficult time, getting out of that. And until, I reached out for help or someone was able to identify and give me their hand and get out of it. I dealt with that. And it's something that when I hear people get really on, people like, oh my God, like depression's not a thing. Like it's not, but it is. Mm-hmm. It very much is. And I can relate to it for sure. And I think that, for as much as, I know it's easy to say, hey, like don't make excuses for yourself and have that positive mental attitude. But honestly, at the end of the day, it really does work. And it doesn't happen overnight. It is incremental. But that's the first step to it. And for me, that's always been, the way I learned how to begin to get myself out of that and learn to stop myself before I go too far down the black hole, because because if you don't stop yourself, it is hard to come out of that on your own. So admittedly, and for me, I mean, that's how I feel for myself. So, I think about that a lot, and that's why I start all my coaching with mindset, because I talk a lot about personal brand, being authentic, being yourself, and then doing all those things that, identifying, creating content and how to create content and all that. But like I tell everybody, everything I'm about to talk to you about makes zero sense and it won't even matter if you don't have the right mindset first, and if it's the excuse is, well, I don't look good on camera, I'm not comfortable with that, I don't know how to create graphics, I don't like taking pictures of myself, I don't know what to write. And it's like, hey, I get it, I've been there. There's days I struggle with, man, I don't know what I'm going to create today. Like I have 1,000 things written down, but I get stuck. But it is, you just got to see it for what it is. It's an excuse for helping you get there. If you're saying, hey, I want to be looked at as a thought leader and expert in my industry, I want to make more money, I want to have the job or the position that I want, I really want to be myself, but then, check mark, check mark, check mark, check mark. And I'm very much like, what? Fine, check that off and I'll take it and light it on fire, because it's total BS. Like, and I've been there and I've done those things. I've made excuses for myself. We all have, man. We're human beings. That's what happens. But I think that the real trick is identifying it, realizing it, and saying, okay, and incremental. one step at a time, because one step becomes two steps, and I'm better today than I was yesterday, and I'll be better tomorrow than I was today. And that's how I look at it. I take it one day at a time. Not that I don't, forecast and plan into the future, but I'm never one to get too far ahead of myself, man. And I think especially too with this year in particular, it's good to not get too far ahead of yourself, So, but to answer your question, I mean, those are, that's the stuff that I look back at where, it wasn't any factor, so to speak, that happened in my life, but there's definitely just, that depression, that I just
chemical
seem to fall into, and it wasn't just even so much like teenagers and stuff. I mean, this is going on like, even as an adult, like, and it's like, you sit there and you're like, I've got everything. I've got a beautiful wife, beautiful, healthy daughters, a house, family, like, and you're just like, what is wrong with me? Like, I've got a business that's like, what is wrong with me? Like,
you're not alone, dude. You're seriously not. I've talked to so many people. I've been given the free coaching calls since COVID started, and it really surprised me. I was just having fun with them, just wanted to serve people, no selling, no nothing. And I'm like, I just want to see for patterns and habits, and because Tony Robbins always talks about, you figure out the patterns, you can figure out how to help people. I'm gonna say fix people. And it's shit, I just forgot what I was gonna say.
Patterns and habits.
Patterns and habits. Yeah. So it's interesting to figure out what it is that we're doing, and that vicious cycle that we get into. And you have to just realize at one point, for me, I look at it, okay, two ways. You can look at it, okay, what is my best? Because that's definitely a conversation we could have. And what is my greatest motivator? And I have proven, I'd be interested to hear your take on this, Chris, given the situations you've been in. Right. I have understood, and I can't take credit for it either. Tony Robbins taught it. We do things for one of two reasons: to gain pleasure or to avoid pain. And when we think about when we're in those downward cycles, I went through one of those in 2016 to 2018. I didn't coach. I didn't speak. I was like, F it. I don't want to do this anymore. Went through this whole storm of just like thinking negative things and just like almost trying to convince myself to keep going every day. Not that bad, but I would go take a walk. Like, Chris, you're going to figure this out. You're going to figure this out. And that's why when I came up with the one of the taglines, unstoppable, I'm like, how do you stay unstoppable? It's not a magic potion. You just keep going through. I see so many people in suicide prevention groups. I'm like, you just keep going, but you just don't keep going. You have to change, right? Dr. Wayne Dyer said, when you continue to do what you've always done, you're going to continue to get what you've always got. And I've been in those vicious cycles, and it's just like, okay, how much pain is it going to take for me to hit bottom? And how can I visualize that pain ahead of time so that I don't have the regret and I don't have to hit bottom? So I've done that a bunch of times with people is, okay, what is your pain? What is the biggest pain point in your life? And what is it? How can we visualize that you avoid that? And what steps do we need to take today? Because you're absolutely right, Chris. People like, oh, I'm 42 years old and I've and I want to be better in 6 months. I'm like, it's taking you 40 years to get this screwed up. You got to give yourself a break. You're going to feel a little bit better in 6 months. You're going to feel way better in a year. 5 years from now, you're going to look back and say it was the greatest thing that happened because now you're like this, but you can't expect that overnight cure. But what do you think about that in those situations, Chris? When was it the pain that got you out, that got you out of that vicious cycle?
Yeah, I think it was actually a little bit of both, that's the pain. And then also too, like, I try to like remind myself of, the things in life that are just amazing, like just that, like, what are the things in life that are amazing? And that alone is like, okay, like stop feeling like, why me and all this, like, it's just like, start thinking about the things that really make you happy in life. And it's like, my life in general, like, these are like, let's focus on the positive things, the things that bring you like real joy and pleasure. And when I start to do that and focus on that, that's where I begin to like come out of it. And that's the stuff I continue to, and then that's when I start to feel the pull, because everybody does. It's exactly, I go right there. Like, I just, it's like a mental snapshot of like, okay, hold on. I'm not going to go too far down this. I'm going to get over this. I'm going to vocalize it. And then, if it's to myself, and I'm going to scream it out. And then I'm just going to like, now I'm going to snap right back out of it. And I'm going to, visualize the things that like make me happiest in life. So that's my method. That's how I get through it. And it works. It works for me. Everybody's a little different, and that's what makes everybody unique. Everybody's got different ways of coping with that and dealing with it. And you know, and you need help and guidance with that. And sometimes you can do it on your own, you know, and all things are equal when it comes to that. You know, whatever works for you personally is what you should do. So that's how I deal with it.
Dude, that is so important. And I figured you were going to ask me about it in some direct way.
Yeah.
But gratitude has been one of the key influences in my own growth and my own confidence. And also with all the coaching clients that I've worked with, and in just people in general. It's like when I find people that are complaining, you know, I think about like, okay, you want more stuff, but will more stuff make you happy? And Gary Vaynerchuk published a report or published a thing. He said, studies show that if you should aspire to make $77,000 a year, because beyond that point, anything you gain incrementally does not make you happier. And so what we do is, as a society, we're thought, oh, if I get a new thing, I'm going to be happy. Oh, if I order something off Amazon, I'm going to be happy. And we sit there and we look for things that we don't have yet to make us happy. And I have found through exactly what you're saying, Chris, and looking around going, wow, I have an amazing house. I have toys. I have all this stuff and da-da-da-da. And what's missing? I feel like an idiot. Why am I not happy?
Right.
And I'm like, oh, maybe I should just be grateful for the stuff I have right now. Let me try that. And I started doing research on that. I'm like, oh yeah, definitely. When you realize what it is that you have, like, for example, I sit there and tell people, I did this on stage for a while, is I would sit there and 600 people, 1,000 people, whatever. I'm like, okay, how many here could use more money? Because we were talking about excuses and talking about holding you back. And like everybody's raising their hand. I'm like, who here could use $1 million? And the place goes crazy, like $1 million. Yeah. I'm like, all right, pump the brakes. I said, here's the situation. Here's the situation. I'm going to teach you all a lesson here in the next 5 minutes. I'm going to do it real quick here. I said, okay, so again, let me see the hands. Who wants $1 million? Like literally 90% of the audience.
Right. Everybody's.
Okay. I said, okay. Some people are looking at me like I'm an ass. And I'm like, wait, man, you're going to get this. And I said, okay, so everything being equal, ladies and gentlemen, there's a hush. I'm like, everything being equal, okay? Listen, I have $1 million cash. I'm going to give it to you right now. I give it to you. No taxes, no nothing. You can go do whatever you want. Who would tell me what they want to do? They would tell me blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'm like, okay, so I want to give you $1 million. You guys are going to give me your eyesight. You're going to donate your eyes to somebody who can see, you know, not even think about surgery or anything. You're going to go donate your eyes. You're going to be blind, but you're going to have $1 million cash and you're going to help somebody. You can get a seeing eye dog. You can do all sorts of stuff. You have $1 million, pay off your bills, buy 2 houses, go on vacations. Do you do it? The entire audience is literally looking at me like, what? Are you crazy? No, I'm not going to take my eyesight for $1 million. What? I'm like, okay. I get it. Eyesight's important. You want to see things. Things are beautiful. I said, okay, who here could use $500,000? Yeah. But they're looking at me like, what is he going to say? And I'm like, hey, $500,000, right? No taxes, no nothing. Your legs. You're going to be paralyzed for the rest of your life. You're going to get around in a wheelchair. You can still drive, still play tennis. I have friends that are wheelchairs that do more crazy stuff than I do with both legs. Do you do it? And the crowd's like, no. And I just stop and I'm like, they're waiting for the punchline. I'm like, well, guess what? Every time you wake up in the morning and your eyes open and your feet hit the floor, you're $1.5 million ahead of the game. And by chance, did you go over to a place in your bathroom and like move a lever and hot water came out of the wall? Did hot water just come out of the wall for you? And you can stand there for as long as you want? Isn't that pretty cool? And that's my point, is that there's so much to be grateful for. I start my day every single day with what I'm grateful for before I even open my eyes. That's how I start my day. And then I say my intentions, then I say my affirmations, and then I rock it.
Yeah, no, it's well said, man. I mean, that's exactly, I mean, that's the thing. Like I've gotten to the point where I open up my eyes and I'm like, man, I opened my eyes again today. Like, it's going to be a great day. Like, and believe me, things happen and deflect with you, but it's just like my every morning I'm like, man, I opened my eyes again today. My feet hit the floor. This is a great day. You know, I get to see my wife again. I get to talk to my daughters again. Like, this is awesome. You know, and that's how I look at it too. And that's, you know, and then my day starts, and that's what I'm grateful for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I just thought of one more thing.
Yeah, man, go in there.
And I've had 2 people tell me this now. One that is a special moment when I've told that story, and they're like, Chris, and I had somebody that went through diverticulitis and had a bunch of stuff with their colon. Like, Chris, just to be able to go to the bathroom, number 2, that's probably the nicest way I've ever said it on a show. You know, I wish I could do that. He goes, I have a colostomy bag. And he goes, just to be able to go to the bathroom on my own, just to be able to eat what I want. I took it for granted. Like, oh yeah, it's just my body. It's everything. I don't need to, you know, go to the bathroom every single day. I'll wait a week and a half and do it. and hit the regret and everything else. But he's like, I just can't wait to be able to go to the bathroom and have food. So, I mean, the gratitude is so simple and yet so powerful. But yeah, man, I'm just having a good time. I'm just having a good time. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and I appreciate you coming on, and I mean, we could go on for like ever and ever about all this, man. This is great. I really do love talking to you about this. I mean, because you and I we'll sit there, we'll text each other, we'll get in these chats together virtually, and it's really awesome. You know, and I do want to before we get close to wrapping it up, which I feel like, man, I can't believe as much time has gone by already. It's like unbelievable. But I do want to talk to, I mean, listen, I think it's got to be said. I mean, how like you and I instantaneously, like we talked to each other, like we met, and I'm like, oh my God, like what are the chances that like I'm East Coast, you're West Coast? Even though we both have different backgrounds of how we came to it, but like here we are both like doing our thing and being completely like ourselves, like who we are, like letting it fly, man, being rock and roll, just loving it, just loving everything. Thanks, John. I appreciate the comment, man. Thank you. Thanks for watching today. And that's it, man. Our love for rock and roll and what it stands for, what it's about, and everything like that. And you and I've connected over so many different. Even right before the show, I'm sitting here sending you a picture of like I'm listening to Van Halen in the car, and but I love that.
I sent you that picture of me and Duff McKagan and my
you and Duff McKagan, which that's awesome. Like
music saved my life.
Yeah, I mean, music is such a big part of my life and how we both have, I mean, integrated it very much into our brand. And I think that's great because that is a big part of, especially what you and I are both coaching, man, like being authentic, being yourself, like don't be this perceived version of yourself or, and you talked all about it with the headband and like, don't be this perceived version of yourself. Like just be yourself. And people are either going to dig it and want to work with you because of that, or they're just gonna be like, hey, no, I want to work with the suit and tie person or and also that there's nothing wrong with that. That's totally fine. Like if that's the type of person and that works for you and that's something that's going to respond, then yes, you should absolutely do that. But for me and you, I mean, it's like, I'm not going to pretend to be something I'm not. Like, I'm going to drop some great advice on you. I'm going to show you how to do things. I'm going to train you. I'm going to get you to where you need to be. I'm just not doing it in a suit and tie.
Nope. No
and
way.
I know you're the same way.
Nope. What's funny, dude, is I have to go after I get done with this interview. I have to about an hour. Well, actually, 45 minutes. I have to go have family pictures, and I have to go get all. My wife's like, "Will you wear a collar shirt and no bandana?" And I'm like, "Oh, I have to look like a normal guy. Okay, I'll look like a dad. Okay."
Well, it is a family picture.
Yeah. If I had it my way, we'd all be sitting there with hats on backwards and flashing tattoos everywhere. But,
yeah, there you go.
No, I mean, like music. I mean, I don't know if I ever showed you this.
Yeah. That's awesome. I love how it's like plugged into your arm like that.
We've got the Driftaway, Dobie Gray Driftaway. That's the movie The Crow. And then I have a guitar over here. So yeah, I mean, music. I originally wanted to be in music, and everybody said I had the personality, I had the hair, I had everything for it, but I just not have the talent. And so it was funny. It was like, and I went to work for a record company. I went to work for Virgin Records for a while. I was going to get in the whole record music industry stream. I know you talked to Steve Morgan, who is amazing about that again from WhatsApp. It was just, and I realized with the speaking and everything else, I'm like, I'm still on stage. I'm still rocking. I'm still using my words, whether they're from a music or a poem or from my heart.
Right.
So like you said at the beginning of the show, anybody could become a rock star, and you guys all should become rock stars because, that little dash between the time we're born and the time we're gone is really, it goes by quick. I'm going to be 52 and it blows my mind how fast life has gone by, and it's going to go by whether it's crappy or whether it's great. And it's up to you guys and it's up to us to always choose, how do I become great? How do I become better? How do I become a different version of myself than just yesterday? Right. When I think about yesterday, I wanted to put that post out there, and I was just like, I'm ready for it. I don't even care anymore. I'm going to get more people who like me, more people who hate me, whatever. And I was just like, and then I look back on yesterday, I'm like, I stopped from doing something stupid that I've done before. And now I feel better because it was the right thing to do to stop. It was the right thing to do to reach out. So we should always be trying to grow.
Yeah, well said, man. I think that's a great way to cap it off here today in this discussion. Because once again, I know you and I could probably go on for another hour here just talking about all this stuff. And it's,
bonus section.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll have to deal with a 3-year-old who doesn't want to get dressed up, so that's gonna be fun. I'd rather do this.
Yeah, well, we all have our chores in life.
I know.
But yeah, man, I do want to thank you so much for coming on today, spending time, and we'll definitely do this again for sure, because there's a lot of other topics you and I could talk on, and spit some truth at people, and have them watch, and hopefully take something away. So thank you so much, man. I appreciate you. I appreciate everything you've done. I appreciate all the help you've given me as I started my journey down this path, and yeah, it's just wonderful meeting you, and thanks, man.
You got it, brother. You got it. Thank you so much for having me on, and just being a part of the world, and being a force of change, and trying to make the world a better place for who you are and what you do, and being a great dad, and just being you. That's the funny thing, is just all we have to do is just be us. And that's the thing that I'm excited about. And I'm going to have you on my Raw and Unscripted show, so anything goes there, anything flies there. So we just have a good time there. But yeah, I mean, it's great to be here with you. Thank you, John. Thank you, Mary Jo. Thank you, Mike, for being here, and everybody watches on the replay. You guys rock. Yeah, man. Any final question?
Well, final question is I think the big one: where can people get a hold of you, man? Like, like we talked about I talked about your walk and talk videos. I know you're on YouTube, but like, where can everybody follow you and contact you?
They can contact me at my very old website that's getting redesigned right now. Yeah. Thank you, Ben Hayden. Yeah, you just go to ChristopherRausch.com, RAUSCH, ChristopherRausch.com, or if you want to go to NOEXCUSEScoach.com. There's my old ass website, and you can click on YouTube, go there. I have a bunch of playlists. I have the walk and talk videos. I have the Raw and Unscripted show, which is my show. Then I have the Friday show, which is Friday Night Live, that you saw with my buddy Scott Goyette, that we're now rebranding. It's going to be called The Unfiltered Experience. I'm so excited.
Ooh, I love that. That's a good name, man. That's a good name.
Oh yeah, we're bringing it.
That's great.
So yeah, just having a blast. My social media is there, my Instagram, my Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever you want to contact me, guys, feel free. And like I said at some point in the show, Chris, I'm still offering free coaching sessions. So they're coaching strategy sessions. They're 1 hour. It's just my way of paying it forward to you guys. You go do something nice for somebody else. We make the world a better place for who we are. So if you want to get a hold of me, just go ahead and send me an email, or go to my website. You can find me anyway. Be happy to do that for you, and send you my calendar. But thanks again, Chris. I really appreciate being on here, and we'll just have to dedicate a show one time to just rock and roll and just talking music.
Oh man, yeah, that's definitely happening, because we can fill that up for hours for sure. Yeah. So yeah, so thank you everybody who watched on the live stream today. Really appreciate all of you. Thank you to everybody then who also watches this on YouTube, and then also goes and listens. If you're listening to the audio version that's on the podcast, thank you so much. Please remember, the best way to help support me is to like, share, subscribe this content, and share it with everybody else. That's a great way to help me, and also help the people that spend their time being guests on here and spitting some real truth at you. So thanks again, everybody. Have an awesome night, and always remember, be authentic, be yourself, and always remember to rock it.
To rock it.